Hey guys, thanks for joining us for Life Group tonight. My name is Laura. I'm the Happy Valley student pastor, and we are so glad that you are with us tonight. What some of you guys might not know about me is that I actually lived in Texas for 5 years, and when I first moved there, I realized that a few of my friends were nervous about driving in the rain. Now, if you're like me and have grown up in Oregon, this probably seems weird to you. But then came the night where I understood why they were nervous. I got stuck in a pretty severe thunderstorm. I was driving home on a stretch of highway that didn't have streetlights. Rain was coming down in sheets. There was water all over the road. And by the time I got home, my muscles were so tight from just clenching onto the steering wheel. I had cried multiple times and I was exhausted just from being terrified. So my question for you is, have you ever had a time where you have felt fear like that? Well, tonight we're going to look at a story of one of Jesus's disciples or close followers who experienced fear like this. So go ahead and grab either your physical Bible or a Bible app on your phone and turn to Matthew chapter 14. So just before this, Jesus had performed one of his most famous miracles, the feeding of the 5,000. And so he sends his disciples across the lake so he can have some time to himself to pray. And so this is where we're going to pick up Matthew 14, verse 24. It says, "Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them, walking on the water. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, 'It's a ghost.'" Okay, things aren't going super well for the disciples in this moment. Jesus isn't with them, a huge storm has come up, and now all of a sudden they think they see a ghost. Okay, I don't like haunted houses, scary movies, it's not my thing. So this would literally be my worst nightmare. But then Jesus speaks up in verse 27. It says, "Don't be afraid," he says. "Take courage, I am here." Then Peter called to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why did you doubt me?" Why did Peter doubt Jesus? He'd been following him for a while. He'd seen him do some pretty crazy things. In fact, he had just seen him perform a pretty incredible miracle a few hours before this. And Matthew tells us it's because of the storm. Now I get this. I just shared with you a story of a storm I got stuck in. They're pretty terrifying. And I also couldn't imagine being in a storm like that on a boat. But one thing that I haven't shared with you about Peter is that he was a fisherman, which means that he likely grew up fishing with his family, learning from his dad how to fish on boats. So this is probably not the first storm that Peter had been caught in, and it possibly wasn't even the worst storm that Peter had experienced. And the Bible doesn't say this, but I think Peter probably knew how to swim. If he grew up on boats, he learned what to do if he fell in the water, and he probably could have gotten back to the boat if he needed to. So we go back to our original question. Why did Peter doubt Jesus? Why was Peter so afraid? I think it wasn't really about the storm at all. There's two types of fear. There's fear that keeps you safe. It helps you make good decisions. For example, my fear of heights, I would consider this to be a healthy fear. It kicks in when I need it to, but it doesn't completely control my life on a daily basis. But there's another type of fear. And this fear can become really unhealthy. It can control your thoughts. And if I'm really honest with you guys, this is the type of fear that I have really struggled with. I've had sleepless nights where I've had fearful thoughts racing through my head and just can't find peace to go to sleep. I've allowed fear to dictate decisions that I've made. I've allowed fear to impact my relationships and to change the way that I view myself. But what I've learned with the help of family, friends, and professionals is that this type of fear is often based in lies. Lies mostly about myself and about God. And I would say that there's two big lies that we believe. One, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough for my friends, my family, definitely not good enough for God. And two, that I can't trust God to handle my problems, either because he's not big enough, he's not there, or he just doesn't care. But neither of those lies are true. For me, my biggest fear is the unknown. And this plays out in small ways. Like maybe a friend isn't texting me back as quickly as I thought they would. My mind immediately spirals through, what could I have said to make them upset? What could I have done? Why aren't they texting me back? And this feeds into the lie that I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough for them. I must have done something wrong. Or it also plays out in bigger things, like coronavirus. With all of the unknowns, with the differing opinions, the division, it feels so big and overwhelming that it seems too big to handle, which feeds into the lie that I can't trust God to handle my problems. What fears are you feeling right now? Maybe for you, you're afraid of losing a friendship because of what's going on with being at home and not having your normal routine. Maybe you're afraid of one more thing that you've been looking forward to getting canceled and having to deal with the pain of what that means. I don't know what it is for you. It could be 1,000 other things. But my question for you would be, are any of your fears based in lies? Because when fear is based in lies, the thing that can defeat those lies is truth. Truth about God and truth about who we are in Him. When I read this story before, I pictured Jesus asking Peter these questions in a frustrated or even an angry way. Like, come on, Peter, get it together. You have seen me do these amazing things. You have been with me through all of this. Why isn't your faith strong enough? Why don't you believe? And I think that I hear him say it this way because that's how I hear him talking to me. Come on, Laura, get it together. Why isn't your faith strong enough? Why aren't you good enough to get this? Why don't you believe? But when I read it now, I hear Jesus asking, as someone who genuinely wants to know, why are you so afraid? What lies are you believing that are causing you not to trust me? What is holding you back from knowing truth about me and about who you are in me? I love what Paul writes in 2 Timothy 1:7. It says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline." So how do we begin to live in this spirit of power, of love, and of self-discipline? How can we break free from the lies and the fear that are controlling us and holding us back? Share your fears with God. When you can name your fears, when you can see, is there a lie that is feeding into this fear, we can combat them with truth. Truth about God and truth about who you are. I was shuffling through a playlist today, and I don't believe that it was a coincidence, but this wasn't a playlist that I typically listen to. And a song called Peace Be Still started playing. I had never heard it before, but the lyrics speak beautifully to exactly what we're talking about. So I want to close our time together tonight by reading some of these lyrics for you. So I would encourage you, eliminate distractions, whether that's closing your eyes or putting your phone on silent, away from you, however you can. Really focus on these words and just imagine this picture that they paint. It says, "I don't want to be afraid every time I face the waves. I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to fear the storm just because I hear it roar. I don't want to fear the storm. Peace, be still. Say the word, and I will set my feet upon the sea till I'm dancing in the deep. Peace, be still. You are here, so it is well. Even when my eyes can't see, I will trust the voice that speaks. Share your fears with God. He can be trusted, and He loves you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, guys. I hope you have a great discussion with your life groups, and we'll see you guys next week.